Hi everybody, welcome to my next video. Well, for once, surprise, surprise, I'm not going to be talking about Tony, really. And I just want to talk about some other stuff here. The reason why I'm not going to be talking about Tony is, well, to be completely honest, there's no new updates for him. That's why. It's just, you know, I mean, he's, other than for me to say, well, he's, you know, nothing's changed since my last update on him, and there's literally nothing new to say other than he's, you know, slowly just coming on along. Yes, oh, and it's just, you know, before I get into further of the video, talk about Tony real fast. Yes, you know, we still have the GoFundMe page up if you wish to still give. And those that have, I want to take the time now to say thank you very much if you've given. You know, and, you know, if you haven't given yet and you would like to, yes, I will include the link to the GoFundMe page in with this video, so, you know, yeah, you can still give, you know, and just as an aside, if you don't feel comfortable giving online, and I've been meaning to say this in the other videos, and I just now thought to say this, if you don't feel comfortable giving online for whatever your reason is, and I'm going to frame it this way. I know I'm going to post this video over on YouTube. But if you want to give, but you don't feel comfortable giving online to, like, the GoFundMe or whatever, you know, what you can do is just let me know, yeah, like, I'm going to actually allow comments on this video, and like I have with the other videos about Tony. Let me know, and like, yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head if, you know, YouTube allows, you know, people to, you know, send each other, you know, private messages or whatever. But if you're on Facebook, though, with me, and you happen to see this, IM me and ask me how you can get the money or whatever to me, and I'll tell you. You know, I haven't decided how you can do it offline completely yet, but, you know, if you happen to know my cell number, you know, reach out to me, and, you know, I will tell you how to get a hold of me, you know, or how to get that money to us. Don't bother Tony right now, because there's one thing, and I do need to say this about him. His hearing isn't doing so good, in case you couldn't tell from those little midget videos I've shared on here on YouTube and some on Facebook about him, because he's like, what, huh? What, huh? And it's like, I have to repeat the question, you know, 3-4 times before it goes, oh, it's this, or it's that, or, you know, he answers and whatever. You know, but yeah, it's like, you know, if you, like I said, if you don't feel comfortable giving online, you know, and you know how to get a hold of me, you know, let me know, and you and I can work that out. Otherwise, you know, leave me a message on here, and I will let y'all know how to get a hold of me. Okay? And, you know, it's all that fun business. Well, anyway, well, for like the next, what, it's 10:09 p.m. right now, but today is Sunday, May 28th, 2023, as I shoot this video. Well, today is the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, 2023, here in the United States. Well, the reason why I mentioned the date and the fact that it's Memorial Day weekend is, it's two things. Well, People usually consider this the unofficial start of the American summertime vacation. What it really is this weekend's a 3-day weekend here in the United States, for those that don't know. And, we usually take this weekend to honor fallen soldiers and whatever, that are, retired soldiers, current soldiers, whatever, here in the United States. Well, you might notice I'm wearing a green shirt. You can't see what this actual shirt says. I mean, unless I hold it up a little bit. My shirt, I've talked about this shirt before. It says, daughter of a Vietnam veteran. Freedom isn't free. My dad paid for it. I put this shirt on today to honor the memory of my dad, who served the United States honorably back in the 1960s and 70s. Well, early 70s. He was still, in the Army when he married Mom. In a way, he was, dealing with coming out of the Army when Mom and Dad got married 53 years ago, almost. It'll be 53 years, not this Tuesday, the 30th, but it'll be Thursday week on June 6th. Mom and Dad would have been married 53 years on the 6th of June. Just as an aside, I am planning, it is assuming nothing goes wrong between now and then, but I am planning on June 6th, and quite possibly tomorrow on Memorial Day, to go down and pay respects to my dad. And my plan is hopefully, I'll get out there and to the cemetery and, maybe shoot a video or two, and let you all actually see his grave. Yes, I am very proud of my father, if you couldn't tell. And that brings up another thing, and I've yapped about that too. I wrote my book about my dad. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm extremely proud of my father. I am. Dad, I don't know if Dad didn't believe in himself the way I believed in him, or I don't. It's like, I know one thing though, my dad absolutely adored me, and I absolutely loved him back, and it's just, I wanted to talk about him a little bit. I was talking about Dad a little bit earlier today to somebody I know in person. I found this years ago, for my mom's birthday. I found these two really sweet pictures of me with my dad when I was a baby. One of them, I was about, I'd say probably about 2 weeks old. I'm this little skinny, long, skinny baby, and Dad's holding me, and he's, talking to me. You can tell he's just having a good time, and I'm looking at him, and I'm this little skinny little baby. He's holding me like this, and all I have on is a diaper and a t-shirt, and I'm looking at him going, and I'm trying my absolute best to talk back to him, and only the way a baby could, and you could tell he was just having a great time with it. I think that picture, and I was thinking about it today, was taken on his first Father's Day with me that we celebrated together. And it was his very first Father's Day. It was taken about 2 weeks after I was born, because my birthday is also June 6th, by the way. I was the best anniversary present my dad ever got in his whole life. It's him and Mom. Dad, I'm told that my dad was beside himself the day I was born with joy. He was so happy. He also never had any kind of problem remembering his wedding anniversary either. I think my dad was the only man that I can think of off the top of my head that had no problem remembering his wedding anniversary. And that brings up something I just thought of here. You know what? I have met only one other person. It was another girl who was also born on her parents' wedding anniversary, but in September. And she said she's always, she said her dad never had any problems remembering his wedding anniversary either. And I remember telling her, I'm like, my birthday, now that my father's gone, and I have to talk about this. Now that my dad is gone, he's been gone for almost 2 years. It's just, it's just inside 2 years now. It's like what, like it's 5 weeks, a little more than 5 weeks away. It'll be the 2-year anniversary for my dad. I told her, I said, when I was a kid, the thought crossed my mind that one day my parents are going to be gone, and I wondered how I would take it when one of them died finally. Well, I have to tell you, my first birthday after my father had passed was very hard on me. I didn't have a good birthday. I didn't. That was last year in 2022. I had a very, very hard birthday last year. I gotta tell you, because I absolutely adored my father. He just, and I've said that before in this video, but I absolutely unconditionally loved that man. He just, I told my husband, tell you this, I said, look, to be honest with you, he was the first man that I ever really just unconditionally loved, and it's true. And I told Tony, I said, you're playing second fiddle to a man that's going to be a very hard act to follow up after. And I said, I hope you're up to, filling his shoes, because, my dad was my dad, and he was who he was. And, I mean, it's like I was telling about that picture just now of me and him when I was a baby. I blew that picture up and I touched it up and whatever, and gave it to Mom for her birthday one year in a frame. Well, it was that one, and then another one when I was a few months older. I was about 6 months. I was a little chunky baby. How babies get chubby after so while, and it's just it's just that cute little fat roll baby. It's like we're laying on the bed, and he's just talking to me, and I'm just, you can tell I'm just laying on the bed next to him, just laughing my head off about, I don't know what he was saying to me, but he was, prior to Mom snapping that photo, but I was like, ha, ha, ha. I'm laying there just it was just, you could tell I was laughing, just laying there laughing at him, and just, I had on, again, nothing but a diaper and a shirt. And, when I was a kid, my mom, I wore cloth diapers. I mean, I'm probably one of the few kids in this world that actually wore cloth diapers as a baby. But my mom had me a cloth diaper with that plastic underwear on, that they'd slap over top of them to keep them from leaking. I was wearing plastic underwear as a baby. And I'm laying there with a different shirt on, and, my diapers, and I'm just chilling, this little chunky person, a little chunky monkey, just laying on the bed next to Dad, just laughing at him, like, ha, ha, like, ha, 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 and it's just so cute to see babies laughing, I blew both of those pictures up, and, I gave them to Mom, and this was like, oh goodness, it was probably in 2000, so it was 23 years ago. And I remember Mom wasn't amused. And Dad took one look at that picture, those two pictures, and he says, if you don't take them, I will. He's like, I absolutely love those pictures of, him and me together, because he's like, it brings back a lot of happy memories for him, and it did. I knew it had to, but now, Mom actually has those two pictures sat out, remember my dad with, because it's like, something, that I started doing when Dad started being sick was I was just, I would snap photos of Dad at all kinds of random times. Like, I'd snap pictures of him when we were in a restaurant, or, when we were just chilling at home, and I'd catch him off guard and catch him with a mouthful of food or something. And it's just, Mom never could understand why I just randomly snapped photos of Dad, and it's like, it's like those times when Dad was having a good day or Dad was having a hard day, and especially towards the end of his life, I would snap photos of him, and it's just, what it was. And I tried to explain this to Mom later. I'm like, well, I want to be able to remember what he looks like, because I realized back then that I wasn't going to get to keep him forever. And it's just like, I'm like, well, I want to remember him in pictures when I don't get to wrap my arms around his person and just hug my dad and say, Daddy, I love you. I love you. And kiss his face and tell him how much I love him. That's how I feel. And it's, it's great comfort to me now to know that I've got pictures of him. Matter of fact, it was yesterday, I shared some photos on Facebook of, like things with Dad. Like, I have a really hilarious picture I took of me with, well, it's not funny, but it's, I find it funny, ironic. It's not like ha-ha funny, but it's just, what I did was I took my cell phone years ago at a New Year's Eve party, and I laid it on a table, put it on picture mode, slid it, and put it to where it was like, it was, facing me like it is now for this video. And I had it set up on picture, and I scooted it towards Dad, and I wrapped my arm around my dad and said, hey, Dad, look at my phone for a second. And he's like, what? I go, just do what I ask you, okay, please? And I snapped a photo of Dad and I together, and he's not smiling or anything. He's like, really? You're gonna sneak a selfie in with me this way? You bet your socks I am. And I'm like, and he's like, I have a photo that I gained a whole bunch of weight because I took some medicine years ago that made me swell up like a balloon. And, it happens. I've been trying to, just as an aside, I've been trying to get that weight back off. I'm off of that medicine just because to be completely honest, there's no point in me taking that stuff anymore. Doesn't matter. And it's not, there's no point in me taking that medicine anymore. So it's, I've been slowly losing the weight. But there's this picture of my dad with me a few years back. This was before he got really bad sick. And we're sitting next to each other at a table in a Red Lobster near our house. And I'll tell you what, it's like my left hand was on the table like this and his right hand was on the table like this. And I'll tell you what, it's like the two of us together, and you could tell from my round face and his round face, I look just like my dad right in the face. And people will say I've got his face and Mom's eyes. People are like, oh, you look so much like your mom. I'm like, give me a second. Let me pull up a picture of me with my late father. And you're going to be like, oh, no, you look like your dad. And I'm like, I've been told ever since I was a kid about how much I look like my dad in the face. I mean, it's just, And, 31 years ago now, I had just turned 17. This was back in, the summer of 1992. Of course, this is also telling my age. An acquaintance of my father had passed away in Hazard, Kentucky. Well, we went down there for the funeral, obviously. Well, I was a very quiet, shy teenager. Not anything like I am now. I mean, they were to if I was to go to if I had my personality that I have now back then, I think these ladies would have had something said to them. We're at the funeral, and okay, like I said, I look a lot like my dad in the face. And there's several people have seen me and they're like, she looks just like her father. We know whose kid that is going there. Well, these three ladies at the funeral home were sitting there talking. I could hear them say it. They're like, she looks, and they said that I look so much like a couple of Dad's sisters. And I looked at them, and I'm like, like I said, I didn't say anything to them. I just looked at them, and I went and got my dad, and I said, hey, listen, there's these goofy women sitting in there talking about me, and it's making me uncomfortable. If I had been anything like I am now, personality-wise, I've always said this over the last 31 years. If I'd been anything like I am now, I'd have walked up to him and said, hi, now what are your names? And how do you know my father? And do you even know who my dad is? I would have, called him out on it and been like, I'm like, ladies, look, I know you were saying it loud enough for me to hear you talking about me, but, if you're going to be that rude that you can't get up and say, come up and be like, hi, my name is Flora or Jane or Jill or whatever, and I know, are you so-and-so's daughter? And I've been like, yeah, and my name is, Melanie, and they'd been like, I've known your father since we were 4, and we went to kindergarten together or whatever, or high school, and I've been, oh, it's nice to meet you, and they're like, you look an awful lot like his sisters, and I'm like, thank you for coming up and introducing yourself. I mean, and I'm like, didn't these women have any home raising? I looked at them, I'm like, I complained to Dad. I was like, I don't know who they are, but they're making me nervous because they're staring at me. I tell you what, it's like, I knew they were staring at me because they were being really obvious about it. And it's just, I'm over it, that kind of stuff now. I'm like, you can stare a hole at me all you want. Won't care. I will not care. I will not care. I mean, it's just, that's why I'm like, you know what? If I could go back and have my attitude now, I would have walked up to the three of them and was like, did you three not have any home raising or something? Because, if you're going to talk about me and let me hear you, you should at least have the decency to jump up and say, hey, are you so-and-so's kid or daughter? And I'm so-and-so, nice to meet you. At least act like you have some home raising. Is what I would like to say to them. I'd be like, really? I'm like, act like you got some home raising. I mean, I was insulted. I mean, it's just, and that was part of the problem. I'm like, why couldn't these women get up and at least, be like, hey, hi, nice to meet you, shake my hand, Whatever. Well, that was then and this is now. It is what it is. But, it was weird. I remember that because it made me really uncomfortable because I'm like, y'all could have at least acted like you've got some class and, hopped up and at least introduced yourselves to me and been polite, because it's like that was rude. And I would have called them out on their rudeness. I would have approached the three of them and just been like, okay, I would have been like, okay, I don't know, I suspect you wanted me to hear that, and you wanted me to come over and talk to you, now you got what you wanted, and I'm not a bit. I'm like, I just looked at him. I didn't even give him the courtesy of a, acknowledgement or anything. I think they wanted me to come over and talk to him. Well, it didn't work. I went out and looked at Dad and said, there's these crazy women in there staring a hole through me and talking about me, but don't have the common decency to jump up and shake my hand and introduce themselves to me. It's pretty bad. Yeah, that's how I handled it. I went in there and outside and complained to him. I'm like, but Dad was out there talking to a fella he knew, and I'm like I said hi to that friend of his, and I'm like, there's these women in there that aren't talking to me. It makes me nervous. Of course, several years later, it'd be 20 years later, no, I take that back. It wasn't 20 years later. It was 10 years later. It wasn't as long as all that. So like 10 years later, Dad's, when Mom died, Dad had two moms. Not to make my dad sound like he's the child of, a gay couple, but, excuse me, I'm hiccuping. My paternal grandpa had two wives. There was Dad's birth mom, and then there was Dad's stepmom. And, as apples and oranges, I tell you what, it was totally different. But anyway, Dad's real mom died. Well, I'll tell you what, the one lady, this one couple came up from Hazard to pay respects to Grandma. And I tell you what, I absolutely I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Because there was like three of them that showed up, and it was, and I can't, it's like, I know which one it was, but I just all of a sudden can't think of her name. Her name escapes me. I don't want to say the wrong person, so I'm not going to. But she was the one that worked for the newspaper down there in Hazard. Well, she and I got to talking about cooking. And I told her, I said, I don't cook that often just because, things aren't conducive around here to me, heating up a meal. It's, if you can cook it, you can cook it. It's completely microwave my stuff, if I have to, because I don't have time to sit around and, make up a meal or whatever, if I'm not eating out. And I told her, I said, I was going through Mom's one cookbook, and Mom has a cookbook that's got Dolly Madison as in the president's wife, not the cake company. President Madison's wife, Dolly Madison's recipes in it. Well, if you've never seen one of the First Lady's recipes, she gives all her ingredients as Bible verses. And I told this lady that Dad knew, I was like, it's driving me nuts. I'm like, I figured out all the other ingredients for this recipe, except the one. I said, and I go, all the ingredients except this one is all dry ingredients. I said, the other one has to be a wet ingredient. I was like, because I keep thinking it's milk, and it's goat's milk or something, or it's milk, and I'm like, no, and I'm like, it's been driving me nuts for 2 years at this point. I said, I sat down and wrote it out on a piece of paper, this is this, and, it's like 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of egg, 2 eggs, baking soda, like a half a teaspoon, like half a cup of baking soda, and this, that, and the other thing. She said, yeah, it's milk. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I had made my cheesecake that everybody in my family absolutely loves, and she had a few pieces. She said, this is good. She's like, you're like, who made this? I said, that's my cheesecake. And she's like, you're just like your grandmother. I said, that depends on who you ask. That depends on who you ask. But yeah, I'm like, she's like, this is pretty good. It's pretty good. Be almost like something she'd make. I'm like, well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm like, I am. I'm glad to hear it. You know, that's what I said to her. I was like, I'm just like, and then like she asked me for the recipe, and I wrote it all out for her and mailed it to her. I think I mailed it to her, but then I ended up being in the Hazard newspaper. After she got back home, she wrote this article about me in the newspaper. I'm like, okay, thank you. And she mailed a copy of it up here to my mom, so, with my recipe, and she's like, she's just like her grandmother. I'm like, I'm more like my dad than I am my grandma, but, it is what it is. I'll take it. I know she meant it as a compliment, I'm not insulted. Um, but anyway, it's just, I've been thinking a lot about my dad and his dad. Because, like I said, my paternal grandpa's birthday is the 30th, which is Tuesday. Uh, you know, but anyway, I've prated on about Dad and his his biological parents for a bit here. I mainly wanted to get on here and say, I want to wish all our service people, that served and, are still in, a very happy Memorial Day. And, I have a cousin who is, in the service now, and I'm very proud of him. I won't say his name to protect him because I think he's got like a top secret mission, and I'm not allowed to know anything about it other than it is what it is. So I'm not even going to say his name just for that reason alone. I'm trying to protect him best I can, but I did want him to know he knows who he is. Put it that way. My cousin knows who he is, and I want to let him know that if he sees this video, hello, I love you and your family, your wife and kids. I won't say how many kids he's got either. But if you see this cousin, know that I love you and I'm still very, 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 extremely proud of you. And I love you and your wife and kids. And I think about you all the time. But anyway, I want to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day weekend. If you live here in the States, and, if you're a retired military person, thank you for your service. And for those that didn't make it, let's remember their sacrifice, because when you join the military, and it's like my shirt says, freedom isn't free, my dad paid for it. Go visit your family members, because, and pay respects to them. And, it just remember those that, gave it all. Is, and one thing before I stop talking here, my dad, when he passed away, it was the 4th of July. I know I brought that up a little bit earlier, but what it is, and this ties into the fact that this is Memorial Day weekend. What it is the last song my dad heard before he passed away was a song by Billy Ray Cyrus called Some Gave All. If you haven't ever heard that song, since you're here on YouTube, look it up. And listen to the words of the song. Really listen to the words. Because it's very fitting for Memorial Day weekend. Well, anyway, one other thing, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I'm going to have the link to my GoFundMe page for Tony on this video. I'm also going to have the link for my book that I wrote about Dad on here as well. And like I also said, if you don't feel comfortable giving online, reach out to me. And, I will work out that detail with you offline. But only do it if you're like legitimately serious about doing it. Don't be like, oh, well, I'll give, and like you never do. Okay. Seriously. But anyway, happy Memorial Day. And as soon as I have something else to say about Tony, excuse me, that's what I ate earlier talking back, excuse me. But like I said before my body decided to interrupt me, as soon as I have something to say about him, you'll hear it. I'll shoot another video. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you all have a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend. Bye.